Viewers of the Freedom Channel, it's our time. I'm Oleg Borisov, and I'll tell you about the main news at this hour. Hello. 3 people have died as a result of a Russian attack in the Kharkiv region. Among them is a 4-year-old child. 3 more local residents were injured. As reported by the State Emergency Service of Ukraine, a 2-story private house caught fire in the village of Pokrovsk, Brovary district, as a result of the strike. The fire also destroyed gazebos and a car. Another fire broke out on the premises of an industrial facility. A warehouse building caught fire there.
The boy died immediately. He was buried under the debris there. I don't know. In short, I saw it with my own eyes. I went out onto the terrace, was looking, saw this impact. It went boom, and I fell to the floor. Yeah, but thank God I didn't get hit by shrapnel or anything like that. I stayed alive, thank God. Yeah. Then, I ran out and started putting out the car with a hose. Then another man ran up and said, "Get out of here quickly, there's going to be more." And my wife and I ran behind the house, another explosion. Then we started heading out to the field, and 2 hit the exact same spot in a row, right into this house.
5 at this address, and another shawhead also hit the neighboring houses across the street. So in total, there were 6 strikes on this residential area. At the moment, there is no power, but we will restore everything as soon as the investigators allow us to clear everything up here. So the crews are ready, they will go immediately and restore the power supply.
The capital was also under attack by the Russians. 1 person died as a result of the attack. Fires broke out in 2 districts of Kyiv. In 1 district, garages caught fire. There were 2 fire outbreaks. The fire covered an area of about 1,000 square meters. A fire also broke out in a non-residential building where cardboard was stored. In another district, there was a fire on the premises of a facility. All fires have already been extinguished. It was an ordinary residential building. The Russians could not have not known this. This is how the President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelenskyy, reacted to the Russian strike on Pokrovsk in the Kyiv region. Furthermore, as the head of state noted, Russia also launched a strike with 6 ballistic missiles at civilian infrastructure in Kyiv. Donetsk, Kharkiv, Sumy, Dnipropetrovsk, Zaporizhia, Odessa, Kherson, Mykolaiv, Chernihiv, and Poltava regions were under fire, Zelenskyy said. Europe, America, and Ukraine have long wanted to stop this Russian war. The only one who doesn't want to is Putin, and he is clinging with all his might to his ballistics and drones to keep fighting. We need more pressure, new sanctions that will prevent the production of these ballistics. And we absolutely need greater protection for our people. Missile defense, interceptor missiles for Patriot, SAM/T, NASAMS, Hawk, and for our F-16s. All of this works and helps save lives when it is here, in Ukraine, and not somewhere in warehouses thousands of kilometers away from the Russian strikes that threaten lives. I thank everyone who demonstrates leadership and, despite everything, delivers new batches of air defense systems. Volodymyr Zelenskyy, President of Ukraine, on Telegram. Russia continues its terror against the civilian population. This cannot be considered the norm. Putin must be stopped through decisive collective action. This is how the acting Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine commented on Russia's overnight attack on Ukrainian cities and villages. Andriy Sybiha called on partners to take concrete measures to strengthen Ukraine's air shield and increase the cost for Moscow, which is prolonging its war. The Russian army attacked a Sumy-Kyiv passenger train with a strike drone. The locomotive was damaged. According to the carrier company, the train crew evacuated all passengers to a safe distance in time, and fortunately, no one was hurt. Work is currently underway to minimize delays on this section of the railway line. Early this morning, Russian troops attacked Zelenivka in the suburbs of Kherson. An administrative building was damaged by the explosion of a Molnia drone. Shrapnel blew out windows and doors and damaged the facade and roof. There were no casualties. In Kherson itself, a private residential house caught fire due to a strike by a Russian FPV drone. Rescuers extinguished the fire. Tonight, the Russian Federation launched an attack on Ukraine using 6 Iskander-M ballistic missiles and S-400 guided anti-aircraft missiles from the Bryansk region, and also launched 151 strike UAVs. The strikes came from the directions of Kursk, Milarovo, Orel, Primorsko-Akhtarsk in the Russian Federation, temporarily occupied Donetsk, Havardiske, and the temporarily occupied territory of Crimea. This was reported by the Air Force of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. The attack was repelled by aviation, anti-aircraft missile forces, electronic warfare units, unmanned systems, and mobile fire groups of the Ukrainian Defense Forces. According to preliminary data, the defenders of the Ukrainian sky shot down and suppressed 135 drones. NATO is urgently seeking additional air defense assets following a massive Russian strike, during which Ukrainian forces did not intercept a single ballistic missile. This was reported by The Guardian. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy has called on European and American partners to increase the supply of Patriot interceptors. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte stated that the alliance is working on transferring air defense systems to Ukraine. Let me remind you that in the first half of 2026, the volume of air defense missile supplies to Ukraine dropped to 1/3 of the 2025 level. At the same time, Russia plans to significantly increase the production of ballistic missiles. During the first week of August, Ukrainian unmanned systems units struck 12 Russian vessels in the Black and Azov Seas. This was reported by the commander of the Unmanned Systems Forces, Robert Mordiar Bravdi. According to him, the strikes were carried out as part of a special operation called Molochka, Little Milk. It has been ongoing since July 6th. During this time, Ukrainian forces have already struck 218 enemy vessels, 134 of them in the Sea of Azov, and another 84 in the Black Sea. The Russian army has lost more than 1,456,000 troops since the beginning of the full-scale invasion of Ukraine. According to the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, the defense forces eliminated 1,190 invaders over the past day. They also destroyed 4 Russian tanks, 1 armored combat vehicle, 58 artillery systems, and 1 multiple-launch rocket system. In addition, 6 air defense systems, 10 ground-based robotic complexes, and 1 ship were destroyed. More than 350 units of enemy automotive and special equipment were turned into scrap metal. 223 combat engagements were recorded on the front line over the past day. This is reported by the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. The most tense situation is in the Pokrovsk direction. There, the defense forces of Ukraine repelled 30 Russian assaults. On the Kostiantynivka sector of the front, Russian troops attacked the positions of Ukrainian defenders 22 times, and another 15 times in the Slavyansk sector. 8 assaults were recorded in the Huliaipol direction, and on the South Slobozhansky bridgehead, the armed forces of Ukraine repelled 12 enemy attacks. Russian troops have intensified attempts to break through into Lyman and gain a foothold in its outskirts. They're using sabotage groups for this purpose. As emphasized by the spokesperson for the Joint Forces Group, Viktor Tryhubov, the Ukrainian defense remains effective. The armed forces of Ukraine are holding their positions.
There's a large gray zone here from Zarichne and Yampil directly to Lyman itself. These are effectively the routes for their infiltration groups, which the Russians are using to try and break through there. The occupation of the city is viewed as one of the steps on the path to the Sloviansk-Kramatorsk agglomeration, one of the main goals of the Russians in eastern Ukraine. Viktor Tryhubov, spokesperson for the Joint Forces Grouping of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, on air with Suspula.
Belgium will send its military to NATO exercises in Greenland. This was announced by the country's Minister of Defense, Theo Franken. About 30 military personnel will take part in a 2-week NATO training mission in the Arctic region, which will take place from September 4th to the 18th. Arctic Century is a military mission of the alliance that started in February of this year against the backdrop of rising tensions between the U.S. and Greenland after American President Donald Trump once again showed interest in the island. Lithuania is preparing for various scenarios of possible Russian provocations in the Baltic region. Following the emergence of intelligence data on this, the country's prime minister urged the public to remain calm. He reminded everyone that Russia's war against Ukraine is ongoing, Russian aggression has not ceased, and emphasized that any information being made public must be carefully weighed.
Of course, a certain level of threat exists. The state is preparing, quietly carrying out the necessary work, and not revealing too much so that countries unfriendly to us or our neighbors do not receive unnecessary information. We are monitoring the situation, assessing it, and will always respond appropriately. Mindaugas Sinkevičius, Prime Minister of Lithuania, from a statement to journalists.
Subscribe to UATV English and stay updated on the most important events, top news from Ukraine and all over the world, in-depth analysis, exclusive reports and interviews, all on hand in our channel. Join our community of viewers and stay tuned.